One man who is a repeat guest, I think he's on multiple times now, is Jason Taylor from the Melbourne Football Club, Melbourne's recruiting manager. Jason, thanks for coming back on Gettable.
No, pleasure to be here. Thanks, Riley. Thanks, Cal.
Thanks for coming in. It's obviously a busy time, as we really respect all the recruiters who come in and share some time a couple of days out, because it's a frantic time too. How's the mindset 2.5 days before you make some pretty pivotal picks for your club?
Yeah, well, they are pivotal picks. The mindset fluctuates. I think I don't stress really, but yeah, you do go through a range of different emotions, and there's always that slight element of whether you like it or not, it'll creep in where you'll second guess where you're at, and it doesn't last too long because you know you've done the work. But yeah, looking forward to it. Meet with Goody and Richo and the coaches straight after here, and go through our final rundown, and then on with business.
So, Riley just said I've given myself an out in terms of how difficult this year has been to predict. You're in the middle of that. Have you found the same?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to predict, and because it's such a quality range of player, and you know, they're all different too. The midfielders at the top of the draft, and then, you know, as this year quickly, you know, at the start of the year, a lot of tools emerged very quickly. So that's just added to the depth of the draft and the small forwards as well. So there's a real range there, and it makes it difficult to predict, but you just got to get yourself in a line and go from there.
We mentioned it before in the sense that, and you just said it then, how different those midfielders at the top end of the pool are. Finn O'Sullivan's a different player to Harvey Langford, who's different to Jagger Smith, who's different to Sid Draper. I mean, when you're evaluating that talent, how much more difficult and complex does that make your call at pick 5?
Yeah, I think we all evaluate players differently, so it's not just the on-field performance, there's all the other things that go with that, and so that comes into play. As far as, you know, adding a different player to your current mix, I mean, that all comes into the conversation as well. But ultimately, you just got to pick the player that you feel like will be the best AFL player in the long term, and I suppose that is regardless of type, if you like, and you know, that's where you come to your final decisions, I think, if that makes sense.
Do you have much of a handle of what might happen before your pick at pick 4 and pick 5, and the types of players that might still be available for you?
A little bit, because you just do the numbers. But
it's going to be one of these 5.
Yeah, well, yeah, but which one, who knows? But yeah, I mean, you think you've got a fair handle on it, but then you can do your head in worrying about it, so you just put them in a line. And
well, he's doing right now.
Yeah, we can all do that. I think I've softened a bit this year, a little bit on that, but yeah, it doesn't do much good.
So let's talk about some specific names, if I can get it out. It's
there you go, Cal.
Finn O'Sullivan's in that group if he gets there. Harvey Langford's been linked, obviously Alex Taru as well. You know, Sam Waller if the Tigers go differently. Are those guys all fair to say that are right in the mix?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all quality players, and they all add something different to our current list. So yeah, they're high-end types, and they're exciting types, and they're all those names are definitely there.
So with 5 and then 9, obviously you work out what comes through at 5, you have a little bit of a wait and then see what comes through at 9. How impacted is your selection on pick 9 based on what you get it through at pick 5? Does it make a difference, do you feel, like in terms of mid defender, mid, whatever it is?
Yeah, not at all. Like this year we're really heavily focused on best available talent.
Yep.
You know, I think over the journey we've sometimes looked at need. But this year we've decided that we're just going to pick the best talent.
How do you see that next group of players? I mean, we've spoken about potentially being a really strong first 5 or 6 that you'll get to pick from at 5, but the next crop of players that you might be in your range at pick 9, how do you assess that pool of talent?
Yeah, I mean, it's really even as well. You know, there are tools, there are the small forwards, and there are that next group of midfielders as well that are all high quality players, and again, they're all different types as well. Yeah. So that makes it challenging when you're assessing and you know, finalising your rankings, but albeit it's exciting at the same time.
Does key position come into your thinking at some stage in the night?
Well, I think so. I mean, you just got to look at, it's really best available. I can't describe it any better than that. This year we're really heavily focused on taking the best talent.
Talk to us about the strategy, which has been a Melbourne strategy for a long period of time, of trading the future one to get back in with multiple picks in this year's pool. I mean, you've managed to do it. You've targeted Essendon's pick 9. Obviously, you got that through now. It's been a long-term plan of the football club, obviously, and one that's really worked for you.
Well, as added to the trade and free agency, we really value the draft, and we feel that if we can get involved in the draft on most occasions, most years, that'll hold you in good stead to build underneath as you go through, and at the right times then we'll add through trade and free agency and the like. So that's been our strategy all along. Like, we feel like if you can get into the top area of the draft, it will hold you in good stead eventually.
Obviously, the footy club kept some really good players in the off-season. That was a big storyline in retention, which suggests that you still view yourself right in the contention for next year. Do you think the player you get at 5 and maybe 9 as well can play straight away and aid that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be cautious with new draftees and where they are at physically. But certainly we feel like, and a little bit like last year's players, like Caleb played, from the start really before he got injured. Colton was a little bit slower to progress, just learning about his body, and got going towards the end. So they're case by case. They were both very different cases.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, because getting 2 at once and then 2 again the next year. We had Will Thursfield on the show before, and they've done 2-2 and are looking to try and get a second one this year as well to go 6 in 3. How pivotal can that be to go bang bang across 2 years? And first round picks are hard to come by, so to get 4 in 2 years can really boost up and regen on the run a little bit.
I think it's critical to a successful list build. I was listening to Steve Canole earlier on your show, and he mentioned about a group of players in one particular draft, and I think they, and even our boys are back, this week, and you can just see how close that young group is, and the more layers you can add on to that quickly, it can really drive standards and drive harmony and really strong teammateship.
You touched on the plan before, but I think it's gone a little bit under the radar in terms of how many young players and young first-round picks you've brought into the football club while you've been challenging and while you've been and had that success in 2021 as well. Are you comfortable with where you list at the moment in terms of how many young kids you've brought in to work with the guys like Petrarca and Oliver and Gawn who are at their peak at the moment?
Yeah, I think the blend's good. Yep, absolutely. I think that we've got a really good balance there, and we should be well and truly in the window still. If the window's a funny word really when we're talking about premiership contention. Everyone wants to be in contention all the time. That's the reality, and I feel like where our core quality top end talent players, they're still well and truly with their best football ahead.
Does this top 10 or so remind you of any of the recent drafts, or is there a year that sort of comes to mind where you think, oh, this actually has some similarities to the evenness, to the uncertainties, the unpredictability, but also to the talent?
Yeah,
I'll put you on the spot on that one.
You have put me on the spot. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or is it unique in itself?
I think it's a little bit unique. I think it started to become unique when those tools emerged early. And there's a number of them. Like, it's not just 1 or 2 that have emerged, and there's a number of them. So we went in, knowing that there's going to be a really good midfield group.
Yep.
And then also the smaller forward, the quicker types emerged as well. So the blend is quite brilliant, really.
You've got a couple of NGA prospects that are potentially available to the football club throughout this year's draft as well. Ricky Menther's one of them that comes out of Alice Springs. Talk to us about his season and what you've managed to watch from him this year.
Yeah, it's a great story, Ricky. Like, coming across from Alice Springs, not many players have been able to adapt and make AFL from there. And, when myself and Todd Patterson head over to Alice and they have a gala day where they have a number of matches going on, it's really in a soccer field type setup, and a lot of them run around in bare feet, and, Ricky was doing the same, and he was really, it's difficult to assess players in that scenario, but he moves really well, and one thing about Rick is that he's a really beautiful kid, and he wanted to make a fist of it, and it just happened that he was able to come over with his father to Gippsland, and he lives down that way and become part of their program. And I know that just over the last 2 years that we've seen some real growth with Rick. And I will point out that his Gippsland teammates have been quite brilliant the way they've brought him in and helped him and assisted him, and even Dersma last year and Lindsay and the like this year, they've been really good for Rick.
One player that could potentially be tied to the football club next year is Kalani White, son of Jeff White, former Melbourne ruckman. He's had a fantastic campaign as well. What have you seen from his development? He's a bottom major this year, playing for Gold Coast Suns Academy as well, a couple of games this year. What have you made of his season?
Yeah, no, I think about Kalani, what I love is just his flexibility, and that he's been able to show strong ability in both ends of the ground and also in the ruck. We know how athletic he is. And I think the way he's progressing with his football is at a really nice, steady pace, and he's growing all the time, learning all the time.
Yep.
And I think that's really important. You know, and it's you know, credit to him that he made the AFL Academy, and it's a real thrill.
All right, Jace, it's come time. We've got actually a little bit of a bone to pick with you because this has come across our desk. You're on our show last year, obviously, and for that, we gave you a shirt in faith that you'd really take it out and honour the gettable shirt. Now this, I've got wind that this was at let's call it a bad shirt day, and you won.
I did. Yeah. It was in a landslide, actually.
Well, we appreciate people wearing the shirts at any occasion. It's not bad at all. We want you to sign this one for our board, if you can, please. And also, we've got you a mug, so that one can go for your crap mug day. Whenever you have that at the footy club.
I could sell that on the way out.
So it's good to see the shirt being worn, though.
It is. Any occasion we'll take.
Do you want to chuck that up if you can find a space? Anywhere you like.
Might be a bit tight, mate.
Anywhere, maybe just chuck it in there. That's right, chuck it on that one. Right in the middle.
Rightio.
Good work.
Thank you, Jace.
All covered up.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Jace. Thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having us.
Good luck.